At 5:43 a.m. local time, the quiet over the border shattered. In the next 34 minutes, Ukraine launched 42 unmanned aerial vehicles into Russian airspace. Not in waves, not in formations, but in a deliberately disordered stream designed to overwhelm human decision-making. These were not stealth drones, they flew low, loud, and deliberately exposed, their gasoline engines audible from more than 3 kilometers away. The noise was not a flaw, it was the weapon. By 5:49 a.m., Russian air defense radars across a 92-kilometer sector lit up almost simultaneously, tracks stacked faster than operators could classify them. Optical gun crews were ordered to battle stations. Command posts escalated from routine night monitoring to full combat posture in less than 10 minutes. The asymmetry was immediate and shocking. The entire Ukrainian swarm, every expendable op combined, was valued at $572,000, less than the cost of a single modern surface-to-air missile, less than 3 minutes of sustained fire from a pantsir battery. Yet by 6:10 a.m., Russia had activated gun trucks, radar-guided systems, MANPADS teams, and electronic warfare assets across the entire sector. This was not an attack designed to break through. It was an attack designed to force reactions, to drain attention, ammunition, and certainty. Every radar sweep, every shouted report, every trigger pull generated data, all of it captured, time-stamped, and exploited. By the time Russian commanders believed they understood what was happening, the real operation was already moving below their notice. At 5:51 a.m. on the outskirts of the sector, 4 Su-23 gun trucks rolled into firing positions. The crews already tense, already angry. Through open reflex sights, gunners picked up the lead drones at exactly 1,480 meters, black shapes against a paling sky. No radar cues, no fire control computers, just eyes, muscle memory, and steel. The first burst missed, the second did not. At 2,000 rounds per minute, the twin barrels screamed. Tracers walked through the air, correcting by instinct and experience. When the first drone was hit, it didn't fall, it detonated. Gasoline tanks ruptured, aluminum frames shredded, burning debris scattered across fields and roads. Within 90 seconds, 3 more drones followed it down. The firing never slowed, it accelerated. Over the next 9 minutes and 20 seconds, the 4 Su-23 crews fired 3,460 rounds of 23mm ammunition. That is nearly 900 kilograms of steel hurled into the sky. 15 drones were confirmed destroyed. Each kill cost an average of 231 rounds, more than an entire infantry platoon carries in a firefight. The guns overheated fast. Barrel temperatures climbed to 267 degrees C. One crew reported smoke curling off the housing. Another jammed and had to clear the feed by hand, bare gloves smoking. By 6:01 a.m., all 4 trucks were forced to pause firing to cool their weapons. And still, the sky was not empty. From the gunner's perspective, this was infuriating. Every drone shot down was replaced by another contact seconds later. Loud, slow, almost insulting. These were targets that begged to be killed, and that was the trap. While Russian crews focused upward, burning ammunition and patience, something else was already moving unnoticed below the line of sight. The Su-23s were winning the fight they could see. They were losing the one that mattered. If this much firepower was needed just to stop the decoys, what happens when the real weapon hasn't even been seen yet? While Su-23 crews were still reloading and cooling barrels, another aircraft had already crossed the line. The FP-1 entered the sector at 5:54 a.m. flying at 13 meters above ground level. Its speed was fixed at 79 kilometers per hour, optimized not for evasion, but for terrain following stability. It did not zigzag. It did not accelerate. It stayed low and predictable because predictability does not matter when no one is looking. Over the next 55 kilometers, the FP-1 followed drainage channels, tree lines, and shallow depressions in the land. It never climbed above the horizon line of the Su-23 optical sights. Not once. Every possible line of observation ended in dirt, foliage, or shadow. This was not stealth technology. This was geometry. At 6:02 a.m., a Su-23 gun line swept across the FP-1's exact flight path while tracking a decoy of the optical sight passed within 1 degree of the drone's position. No reaction followed. No correction. No fire. The FP-1 was invisible because it did not contrast with the sky. And Su-23 gunners do not shoot terrain. Sensor data confirms the imbalance. The FP-1's engine temperature remained below 42 degrees C. Its acoustic signature was masked by ongoing gunfire. It emitted no radar signal and no wideband control link to Russian systems. It did not register as an aircraft. It registered as background. By 6:11 a.m., the FP-1 had penetrated deeper than 39 of the 42 decoy drones, all of which had already been destroyed. It had done so without drawing a single round of fire, without triggering a single report, and without consuming 1 second of Russian attention. Above it, the battle was loud and violent. Below it, the real attack continued in silence. The Su-23s were winning the fight they could see. The FP-1 was moving through the fight they could not. And from this point forward, every Russian assumption was already wrong. At 6:14 a.m., Russian commanders escalated with Su-23 crews overheated and decoy drones still bleeding through. The order went out to hand the fight to Pantsir S-1. This was the system designed for moments like this. The cleaner, the closer. The weapon that throws towards control when chaos starts to build. The engagement radar came alive at 6:15 and 20 seconds a.m. 7 remaining OVs appeared on scope at 6.1 kilometers, flying at loose, uncoordinated spacing. Each return was strong enough to generate a stable track. To the fire control computer, this was an easy problem. No terrain masking, no clutter, no ambiguity. The turrets slewed automatically, elevation adjusted, lead calculated in milliseconds. Weapons release was authorized. Both 30mm cannons opened fire at 6:15 and 37 seconds a.m. The engagement lasted 23 seconds. In that time, 38 rounds were fired, not bursts, measured shots. Each round left the barrel at 960 meters per second. Each fused for proximity detonation. The first OV disintegrated when a round detonated 2.4 meters off its left wing. The second lost its control surfaces and spiraled down in flame. 2 more were destroyed by air bursts that never made direct contact. By the end of the sequence, all 7 targets were gone, destroyed, confirmed, logged. From a doctrinal perspective, it was flawless. At 6:16 a.m., the Pantsir battery transmitted its report. All tracked aerial targets neutralized. No further contacts detected. Command screens across the sector turned green. What mattered was not what Pantsir destroyed, but what it never saw. While the radar scanned upward, optimized for threats approaching from altitude, the FP-1 was already 9.4 kilometers inside the radar horizon, flying at 14 meters, shielded by terrain curvature and ground clutter. Its radar cross-section fell below the software's minimum tracking threshold. To the system, it was not filtered as hostile. It was filtered out entirely. Above, the sky was suddenly quiet. No tracers. No explosions, no alarms. Russian crews believed the engagement was over because every visible threat had been eliminated with mathematical efficiency. Ammunition expenditure was minimal. Timelines were clean. The system had done exactly what it was built to do. And that belief, that sense of completion, was the most dangerous outcome of the entire exchange. Because while Pantsir S-1 cleared the sky, the real weapon was already past it, untracked, and moving closer inside a battle space everyone believed was secure. At 6:18 a.m., the battle shifted downward. With the radar picture clean and Pantsir S-1 reporting success, Russian doctrine moved to the final safety net. MANPADS teams armed with Verba were ordered to engage anything still airborne, anything leaking through, anything that moved and radiated heat. They did not have to wait long. Damaged drones were still limping east. One trailed smoke, another flew with half a wing missing, wobbling, but alive. Against these targets, Verba was lethal. The first missile launched at 6:18 and 22 seconds a.m., locking almost instantly. The drone was destroyed at 1,240 meters, its fuel igniting in a brief white flash. A second launch followed 9 seconds later. Another kill. Clean textbook. Over the next 4 minutes, Verba teams fired 11 missiles. 8 drones were confirmed destroyed. 2 missiles locked onto burning debris left from the pantsir engagement and detonated harmlessly in midair. 1 missile self-terminated after losing target contrast. Missile crews reported high confidence. To them, the sky was full of targets. Heat signatures bloomed and faded everywhere. Wreckage burned. Fragments tumbled. The thermal picture was chaotic, saturated, and misleading. That confusion mattered. At 6:22 a.m., Russian command activated Ziluk. The electronic warfare system flooded the sector with broadband noise. GPS bands between 1.1 and 1.6 GHz were saturated. Control frequencies in 2.4 and 5.8 GHz collapsed under interference. Within seconds, results appeared. 9 surviving Ukrainian drones lost command links. 1 entered a slow spiral and crashed. Another flew straight until fuel exhaustion. The third impacted terrain after drifting off course. Radio traffic turned confident. Signals suppressed. Targets neutralized. Control lost on enemy EVs. But the FP-1 never dropped link. Its data stream remained intact. Video latency rose from 180 milliseconds to 243 milliseconds, then stabilized. No command interruption. No navigation drift. No loss of authority. While Ziluk screamed across the spectrum, the FP-1's narrow beam frequency hopping link cut through the noise without broadcasting its presence. And Verba never saw it. The FP-1 produced no meaningful heat plume. Its angular size never exceeded seeker thresholds. Its flight path broke continuity every few seconds as terrain masked it from view. To the Verba seeker logic, it was not a target, it was clutter. By 6:25 a.m., Russian crews believed the engagement was complete. Missiles fired, jammers active, drones falling. The sky looked empty, and that was the most dangerous illusion yet. At 6:36 a.m., the silence convinced them. With radar screens green and reports logged as complete, Russian command authorized the standard post-engagement procedure, and Mi-8 lifted off to conduct visual confirmation, survey wreckage, verify kills, and close the incident. It climbed to 78 meters, leveled out at 204 kilometers per hour, and turned west toward the debris field. From doctrine to execution, everything was routine. The FP-1 detected the helicopter almost immediately. At a range of 2,870 meters, a brief rotor flicker appeared through a gap in the tree line. The operator did not chase the image. He predicted it. Heading adjusted by 2 degrees, altitude trimmed to 12 meters, throttle reduced to avoid closing too fast. The FP-1 settled into pursuit, matching course from behind and below where no sensor was looking. For 12 minutes and 40 seconds, the FP-1 followed the Mi-8 without being seen. The helicopter maintained a slow search pattern, banking gently over impact sites. The door gunners scanned downward for wreckage. The pilots focused forward, preparing their next turn. No one checked the 6 o'clock eye. No warning tone sounded. No radar tracked what was coming. At 6:48 a.m., the FP-1 began its climb. The approach was deliberate, from directly behind, rising at a 15 degrees angle, closing at 12 meters per second. Distance fell from 220 meters to 50. The FP-1 entered the helicopter's blind cone, the one space no crew member could see and no weapon could cover. At 6:49 a.m., the FP-1 struck the rotor mast housing. The warhead detonated on contact. In 0.19 seconds, pitch authority was lost. In 0.31 seconds, 2 rotor blades collided at the root. In 0.38 seconds, the entire rotor system separated under catastrophic imbalance. There was no transition, no recovery window, no auto-rotation. The Mi-8 fell from 78 meters. The entire engagement from first visual confirmation to total loss lasted 37 seconds. On Russian radios, confusion replaced confidence. A helicopter had been cleared to fly in secure airspace. Every defensive layer had reported success. Every threat had been neutralized except the one that mattered. And by the time anyone understood what had happened, the FP-1 was already gone, its mission complete, leaving behind a result no report could explain. At 6:49 a.m., Russian air defense logs still showed a clean picture. No active targets, no incoming threats. Yet on the ground, an Mi-8 lay destroyed, its rotor system scattered across a 120 meters debris field. The wreckage burned for 9 minutes before fire crews were cleared to approach. There were no survivors. Only then did their reports begin to contradict each other. Zu-23 crews confirmed 15 kills. Pantsir S-1 reported 7 confirmed intercepts in 23 seconds. Verba teams logged 8 successful launches. Silic operators confirmed 3 AVs suppressed by electronic warfare. On paper, the defense had performed flawlessly. A total of 42 Ukrainian drones had entered the sector. 41 were destroyed or neutralized. That is a 97.6% interception rate, a number most air defense commanders would proudly brief. And yet, the single drone that survived destroyed a helicopter valued as over $18 million, killed a trained crew, and exposed the entire defensive layout of the sector. The numbers tell the real story. Russia expended 3,460 rounds of 23mm ammunition, 38 rounds of 30mm cannon fire, 11 Verba missiles, 31 minutes of continuous electronic warfare. Ukraine expended 1 FP-1. Total mission cost, $912,000. The exchange ratio was not tactical, it was psychological. Within 40 minutes, Russian command downgraded the airspace status from secure to uncertain. Helicopter operations were suspended across the region. Gun crews were ordered to redistribute. Radar coverage angles were revised. Every layer of defense that had just worked was suddenly under suspicion. This is the consequence modern warfare produces. Air defenses are built to defeat threats they can classify. This operation did not defeat systems, it defeated assumptions. The swarm forced attention upward. The reports created confidence. The silence created permission. And permission is the most dangerous thing a defender can give away. The FP-1 did not overwhelm Russian defenses with speed or firepower. It slipped through because every layer was convinced its job was already done. That is the final outcome of this engagement. A battlefield that looked clean on every screen until reality arrived from behind. This operation was never about numbers in the sky. It was about numbers in the mind. Russia intercepted almost every drone it could see. By doctrine, by procedure, by firepower, the defense worked. Guns fired, radars tracked, missiles launched, reports were filed, screens turned green. On paper, it was a successful defense. But modern warfare does not reward perfection against the expected, it punishes certainty. The FP-1 did not break through Russian air defenses by force. It passed through the gaps created by confidence, by the belief that the battle had already been won. Every layer performed its task so well that no one questioned what lay outside their narrow slice of responsibility. That is the lesson here. Wars are no longer decided by how many targets you destroy, but by which one you fail to notice. If you were in command that morning, would you have made the same call to launch the helicopter? And more importantly, after seeing this, would you make it again? Let me know your thoughts. And if you want a deeper breakdown of what this kind of warfare means for the future, make sure to stay for the next analysis.